Story 7. The Man at Riverbend Park, Ohio. For 15 years, I, Nathan Wells, drove an ambulance through the streets of Dayton, Ohio, navigating the brutal Midwestern winters. The Christmas lights along Main Avenue turned the city into a glowing postcard, but for the homeless, the sub-zero cold was a merciless killer. Winter kept us busy car wrecks on icy roads, elderly folks slipping and breaking bones, and homeless people fighting to survive the frost. One January night, 7 years ago, with the thermometer plunging to 20 degrees and I was paired with Olivia, a seasoned paramedic with 18 years under her belt. Olivia never scoffed at my belief in the spiritual world. Sometimes, I got the sense she saw things too, even if she wouldn't admit it. "Tonight's gonna be rough," she muttered as our shift started. "Below 10 degrees. We always lose someone." The first 2 hours were quiet, a minor fender bender on Highway 35 and an elderly man struggling to breathe in Oak Grove. But at 10 p.m. The radio crackled. "Unit 14 head to Riverbend Park, Riverside Drive. Homeless male, unresponsive, possible hypothermia. Code 2. Olivia shook her head. Who'd be out in a park on a night like this? "Maybe they didn't have a choice," I said, flipping on the siren, or didn't realize the danger. Riverbend Park, nestled along the Miami River, was peaceful by day but desolate and frigid at night. We found the man on a bench near the north entrance, curled up in tattered layers of clothing. A couple out for an evening jog had spotted him and called 911. "We saw him as we passed by," the wife said, shivering in her fur-lined coat. "Thought he was sleeping, but when we got closer," Olivia reassured them. "You did the right thing. We've got it from here." As the couple left, we checked the man. He was breathing, but barely, his skin icy and pale. "Severe hypothermia," Olivia said, taking his temperature. "We need to move fast." We loaded him onto the stretcher, wrapped him in thermal blankets, and got him into the ambulance. Olivia started warming IV fluids while I cranked the heat to max. "No ID," she said, checking his pockets. As I prepared to drive, I noticed something odd. He was shivering from the chest up, but his legs were completely still. "Olivia, doesn't that seem weird? His legs aren't moving at all." She pulled back the blanket and checked. Could be a spinal injury. I looked for signs of trauma but found none. Olivia cut away his clothing for a better look, and we froze. His legs weren't just cold, they were blue-purple, rigid, like they'd been carved from ice. "Good Lord," Olivia gasped. "End-stage hypothermia, frostbite, necrosis. We need to get to the hospital now." I sped through the slick streets while Olivia worked to stabilize him. The prognosis was grim. Legs that frozen were likely beyond saving. At Dayton Community Hospital, the ER team took over immediately. After we handed him off, a nurse called us back. "He's awake, and he's asking for you too." We walked into the ER, stunned to see the man. Samuel Tate, alert and coherent. "You saved me," he said, his voice raspy. "Thank you. Just doing our job," Olivia replied. "How do you feel, Warmer?" Samuel said with a faint smile. "How long were you out there?" I asked. Samuel's gaze drifted. "Not sure. I was headed to a shelter but stopped to rest for a bit." "Can you feel your legs?" Olivia asked bluntly. Samuel glanced at his legs, wrapped in special blankets. "No, haven't for weeks." "Weeks," I said, shocked. "Why didn't you get help?" Samuel stared out the window at the falling snow, glinting in the streetlights. "I figured they weren't mine anymore." "Not yours?" Olivia asked, suspecting hypothermia-induced delusions. "They belong to her," Samuel said, his voice distant. "Who's her?" I asked, a chill creeping up my spine. "The woman under the Riverbend Bridge," Samuel said, locking eyes with me. "She died years ago, froze to death on a night like this. Nobody found her till spring." My stomach dropped. "How do you know about her?" "I see her in my dreams every night," Samuel whispered. She's cold, says she needs legs to walk home. Olivia squeezed my arm, signaling we should leave. But I couldn't stop listening. You let her borrow your legs, I asked. Samuel nodded, his eyes glistening. Every night, I felt her pulling them, making them colder. Last night, she smiled and said, "Thank you. I can go home now." A doctor walked in. "Mr. Tate, we need to discuss your legs. They're not salvageable." Samuel nodded calmly. "I know. At least I'm still here." As we left the room, Olivia grabbed my hand. "You don't buy that story, do you?" I glanced back at Samuel through the window. 6 years ago, a homeless woman froze to death under that bridge. I was there, but we got there too late. Olivia shook her head. "Coincidence. He probably read it in the paper." "Maybe," I said, but I couldn't shake the image of Samuel's legs, small, delicate, almost mismatched with his body. 3 weeks later, I checked on Samuel. He'd had both legs amputated but was recovering well. A nurse told me, "He's weirdly upbeat. Says it was a fair trade for someone to get home." Leaving the hospital, I drove to the Riverbend Bridge. The snow had melted, and a single white wildflower bloomed where that woman had died. As I knelt to look at it, I felt a cold hand brush my shoulder, then vanish. Story 8, the house at 42 Elmwood Street, Ohio. Every neighborhood in Dayton, Ohio, has its secrets whispered tales about the house at the end of the street, passed down through generations. Most are just folklore, but sometimes they're chillingly real. The house at 42 Elmwood Street in Sycamore Heights was one of those places. In my 15 years as an ambulance driver, I dreaded calls to that address, especially after dark. 10 years ago, I was paired with Ryan, a rookie paramedic with 8 months on the job, brimming with enthusiasm and curiosity. We were parked at a convenience store on Main Avenue, sipping coffee, when Ryan leaned over. "Wells, do you believe in curses?" "What brought that up?" I asked, taking a sip. "People say you're tuned in to weird stuff," he said with a grin. I chuckled. "Not curses, exactly, but I think some places hold on to the memories of what happened there." Ryan nodded, ready to dig deeper. When the radio crackled, Unit 14 respond to 42 Elmwood Street, Sycamore Heights. Elderly female, approximately 75, chest pain and shortness of breath. Code 2. My stomach sank. "Elmwood again," I muttered, starting the engine. "What's with that place?" Ryan asked. 6 calls in the last 4 years, always an old woman with chest pain, always at night. But every time we get there, no one's home. Ryan's eyes lit up with intrigue, but I felt a heavy dread as we approached the house. 42 Elmwood was an old brick house, painted pale blue, with arched windows and towering oaks casting long shadows. No lights were on, as usual. "Looks like a haunted house," Ryan said as we pulled up. I knocked on the door, unsurprised when the doorbell didn't work. "Ambulance service," I called. Silence. "Is it locked?" I asked. Ryan tried the knob, and the door creaked open. "Unlocked," he said, his voice tinged with unease. "It's never locked," I replied, stepping into the dark hallway. The air smelled of dust and old paper, like a forgotten library. Our flashlights swept across polished hardwood floors and 19th century portraits, their stern faces staring back. "Anyone here?" Ryan called, his voice echoing. No answer, but I felt a presence, like we weren't alone. "Upstairs," I said. "Main bedroom, end of the right hallway." The stairs groaned under our weight, and the air grew colder, our breath visible in the beam of the flashlights. "Why is it so freezing?" Ryan shivered. At the bedroom door, the brass knob was ice cold. I pushed it open to reveal a large room with a heavy wooden bed, dark green curtains blocking the windows, and an antique oil lamp flickering faintly. On the bed lay an elderly woman in a gray nightgown, motionless, her hands folded over her chest. Ryan rushed forward, checking for a pulse. "No pulse," he said, preparing for CPR. Ryan, look closer, I said softly. He paused, then saw it. Her skin was ashen, rigid, like she'd been dead for years. She's gone, Ryan said, stepping back. Long gone, I confirmed. Just then, a slow, deliberate knock came from downstairs. Ryan jumped. Someone's here. No one's here, I said. This is my 7th time at this house. It's always the same. A late-night call, an empty house, and this woman. Ryan shook his head. Why's she still here? I scanned the room. This was Clara Thornton's house. She lived alone here from the 60s after her husband died. No one knows exactly when she passed. The house has been abandoned for years. No living relatives. The knocking came again. Faster this time. Who's calling for help? Ryan asked, his voice shaky. I think she is, I said. She died alone. No one there for her. Maybe she's still calling out. Ryan looked at the woman, his fear softening into compassion. That's so sad, he said quietly. I stepped to the bed and placed my hand on hers, cold and stiff. Mrs. Thornton, I said gently, we got your call. We're here now. You're not alone anymore. The knocking stopped abruptly. You can rest, I continued. Everything's okay. A cold breeze swept through, making the oil lamp flicker. For a moment, I glimpsed a figure, an elderly woman standing in the corner, giving a faint, relieved smile before fading away. The air felt lighter, like a weight had lifted. You've done this before, haven't you? Ryan asked. 6 times, I nodded. But this feels different. I think she's at peace now. The police arrived and took Clara's body away. Records showed she died in 1988, over 35 years earlier. Remarkably, there were no more calls from 42 Elmwood Street after that night. I still drive by sometimes, though I don't go inside. The house has been sold now. I just stand outside, making sure Clara Thornton finally found her peace after 15 years of witnessing mysteries like hers. Story 9. The Girl in the Mirror on Oakridge Road, Ohio. In my 15 years driving an ambulance in Dayton, Ohio, I, Nathan Wells, learned that the strangest things can come from the most ordinary objects. Mirrors, with their cold, reflective surfaces, have long been whispered about as doorways to other worlds. After one call 11 years ago, I've never looked at a mirror the same way. It was a Saturday morning, part of a grueling 24-hour shift from dawn to dawn. I was paired with Ellen, a veteran paramedic with steady hands and a no-nonsense attitude. We were parked at a coffee shop on Main Avenue when Ellen groaned. I hate weekend shifts. Nothing but drunks, dumb accidents, and psych cases. Statistically true, I said, sipping my coffee. Saturdays are prime time for desperate acts. Ellen nodded, staring out the window. Makes me feel useless sometimes. We show up to save people, but some don't want saving. I was about to reply when the radio blared. Unit 14 respond to 156 Oakridge Road. Female, 15 years old, deep laceration, significant blood loss. Code 1. We tossed our coffees and peeled out. Calls involving kids are always urgent. Oakridge, Ellen muttered. Fancy neighborhood. She was right. Oakridge was Dayton's upscale area, full of Tudor-style mansions and manicured lawns. Number 156 was a red brick estate with a slate roof and an iron gate. A middle-aged man in a bathrobe stood at the entrance, waving frantically. Hurry, my daughter's in the 3rd-floor bathroom, he shouted, his face pale. We grabbed our gear and followed him up a polished oak staircase, past expensive oil paintings and a crystal chandelier. My wife found her, he said, voice shaking. She locked the door. We had to break it down. The main bathroom door was off its hinges, signs of forced entry clear. Inside, a woman knelt beside a teenage girl, pressing a towel to her arm, blood soaking through. Save her, the mother sobbed. Ellen took charge. We've got this. I scanned the scene. The girl, with long brown hair, lay on the granite floor, blood pooling around her. What caught my eye, though, were the shattered mirror shards scattered everywhere. A large wall mirror, stretching from ceiling to sink, was smashed, one bloody fragment near the girl's hand. Arterial cut at the wrist, Ellen said, examining the wound. Not too deep. We can manage. I checked vitals, rapid pulse, low blood pressure. She was in shock but conscious. What's your name? I asked, keeping her alert. Sophie. Sophie Bennett, she whispered, her wide eyes frantic. You're gonna be okay, Sophie, I said, but I noticed her gaze not just scared, but fixed on something terrifying behind me. Did you break the mirror? I asked. She nodded faintly, mumbling something too soft to hear. What was that? I leaned closer. She wouldn't let me go, Sophie said, tears spilling. She was pulling me in. I glanced at Ellen, who was bandaging the wound. Who pulled you, Sophie? I asked gently. The girl in the mirror, she said, voice trembling. She looked like me, but it wasn't me. She wanted me in there. A chill ran through me. I looked at the broken mirror shards and, for a split second, thought I saw a face Sophie's, but with a cold, eerie smile. Wells, help me get her on the stretcher, Ellen called, snapping me back. We moved Sophie to the ambulance, her mother riding along. En route to Dayton Community Hospital, Sophie stabilized. Ellen reassured the mom. The wound's not life-threatening. With stitches and some therapy, she'll be fine. It's not the wound I'm worried about, the mother said, voice shaky. It's why she did it. This isn't the first time. I caught her eye in the rearview mirror. Sophie's had issues with mirrors since she was 12, she continued. We thought it was typical teen insecurity at first, but then she started talking about the other girl in the mirror. Doctors called it a cognitive distortion, then suspected early schizophrenia. She's on meds, in therapy, but nothing worked. So we removed every mirror in the house. Then why was there a mirror today? I asked. We installed a new one in the main bathroom last week, she said, tears falling. We thought she was better. Didn't know she'd use that bathroom. At the hospital, Sophie was taken for stitches. As we prepared to leave, I felt a pull to check on her. In her room, Sophie was alone, more alert, her eyes strangely calm. You're the one who saved me, she said. How you feeling? I asked. Better, she replied, lowering her voice. Do you believe me about the girl in the mirror? I hesitated, but her earnest look made me honest. Tell me about her. Sophie glanced around, then whispered. She started when I was 12. At first, just a shadow in the mirror, then clearer like me, a twin. But she'd move when I didn't, smile when I wasn't smiling. I nodded, urging her on. She whispered I didn't belong here, that the real world was inside the mirror, and I was living in a fake one. She said I had to come back. What happened today? I asked. I didn't know about the new mirror, Sophie said. When I walked in, she was waiting, angry. She reached out of the mirror. My skin prickled. Reached out. Sophie nodded, lifting her bandaged arm. I panicked, threw a perfume bottle at the mirror. It broke, but she was still there, in every piece, pulling me. I got cut trying to get away. Her fear was raw, not delusional, a child facing something unthinkable. I believe you saw something, I said. Sophie's eyes brightened. Really? You don't think I'm crazy? I shook my head. Some things science can't explain. Mirrors might be where the boundaries are thinnest. How do I stop her? Sophie asked. I recalled an old folk tale I'd read. Long ago, people believed if something tried to pull you through a mirror, you could stop it by saying your true name, the name you call yourself deep inside, your core. Sophie nodded, a spark of determination in her eyes. I get it. Next time, I'll say my true name. 7 months later, I got a letter at the fire station. It was a thank you card from Sophie, with a photo of her smiling at her middle school graduation. On the back, she wrote, "It worked. She hasn't come back. My true name is Light. Thank you. I don't know if the girl in the mirror was real or a manifestation Sophie overcame, but I know belief can be as powerful as medicine. Since then, every morning, I linger a little longer in front of the mirror, just to be sure the reflection is me. Story 10. The Fire on Birch Lane. Ohio. Fire and people have a complicated bond. It brings light and life, but it can also destroy without mercy. In my 15 years as an ambulance driver in Dayton, Ohio, I've seen folks so captivated by flames, they'd risk everything for them. One call 10 years ago on Birch Lane proved that more than any other. It was a sweltering summer night, not a breeze in sight. I was paired with Ethan, a paramedic 18 months into the job, always quick with a smile. We'd just handled a mild heart attack in Maplewood and were heading back to the fire station on Madison Avenue when the radio crackled. Unit 14 respond to 78 Birch Lane. Structure fire. Fire crew en route. Possible trapped individual. Code 1. Damn, Ethan muttered. I hate fire calls. I got it. Standing outside a burning building, knowing someone might be inside, is the most helpless feeling. When we arrived, flames had swallowed the first floor of a 2-story colonial-style house. A crowd of neighbors gathered on the sidewalk, and the wail of fire truck sirens echoed in the distance. Anyone inside? I asked an older man nearby. I think so, he said, eyes worried. Mr. Howard always leaves his porch light on, but not tonight. Does anyone else live there? No, just him, since his wife passed 3 years ago. I nodded and turned to Ethan, possible elderly male inside. Prep for smoke inhalation. The fire crew rolled up, 2 firefighters in masks rushing into the house while others hosed it down. I stood by the ambulance, that familiar powerlessness settling in. Then, cutting through the roar of the flames, I heard something odd. A laugh. Not a cry for help, but clear and bell-like. You hear that? I asked Ethan. Hear what laughing? I said, moving toward the back of the house. Wells. Don't, Ethan called, but I was already going. In the backyard, under a sprawling oak, an old man sat in a wooden chair, staring at the burning house with a strange smile. Mr. Howard, I shouted, approaching. In the firelight, his gaunt face and deep-set eyes glowed, his smile almost unhinged. Beautiful, isn't it? He said, voice raspy. You need to get out of here, I said. Your house is on fire, I know, he chuckled. I know better than anyone. I froze, a bad feeling creeping up. Did you start this? He just smiled, his eyes reflecting the flames, sending a shiver through me. You need to come with me, I said firmly. We've got to get you safe. Safe, he laughed louder. Nowhere safe. She's everywhere, always looking for me. Who? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Margaret, he whispered, his gaze distant. My wife, the one I wronged. I stood stunned. Mr. Howard, you're in shock. Come with me, we'll check you out. She died in a fire, you know, he went on, as if I hadn't spoken. Just like this one. I set the blaze in the living room while she slept. She didn't stand a chance. My blood ran cold. What fire are you talking about? Our old house in Akron, 25 years ago, he said. They called it an electrical fault. No one knew, but she knew. She never let me rest. His laugh broke, jagged. Every night, I hear her laughing, like it's a joke I thought I'd gotten away with. Then I smell smoke, even when there's no fire. I scanned for Ethan or a cop. Tonight, I decided to end it, he said. If she wants me to burn, I'll burn. He stood suddenly, making me step back. But first, I owe her an apology. He shouted, Margaret, I'm sorry, and bolted toward the burning house. Mr. Howard, I yelled, chasing him. But he was fast, unnaturally so, vanishing into the flames. The heat forced me back, and I stumbled in the yard. Wells Ethan ran up with 2 firefighters. What the hell were you doing? Howard ran inside. I gasped. The roof collapsed in a shower of sparks. It took 3 hours to douse the blaze. They found Mr. Howard's body in the rubble the next morning. I told the police everything, and they dug into the Akron fire. A month later, a detective visited the fire station. They'd pulled records from a fire in Akron 25 years earlier, at Howard and Margaret Wilson's home. The initial report blamed faulty wiring, but Margaret didn't die in the fire. She reported it, claiming Howard perished. A male body was found, assumed to be Howard, but now they knew it was someone else. Margaret died 8 years ago in a Toledo nursing home, believing her husband was long gone. Howard killed someone, burned the house to cover it, and skipped town, the detective said. Then, 25 years later, he set himself ablaze. I nodded, trying to wrap my head around that kind of guilt. Fire doesn't just destroy it, holds on, keeping secrets, sins, and restless souls. Story 11. The call from the payphone on Sycamore Street, Ohio. In my 15 years driving an ambulance in Dayton, Ohio, Nathan Wells, watched technology change fast. When I started, payphones stood on every corner. Now, they're nearly gone, replaced by smartphones. I used to wonder if those old payphones held onto the whispers and pleas that passed through them. A call 12 years ago convinced me that, sometimes, they do. It was a frigid February night, 8 years into my career. I was paired with Victor, a burly paramedic with a black beard and a smile that held up even in the worst calls. We just handled a stairway fall in Oak Grove and were heading back to the fire station on Madison Avenue when the radio crackled. Unit 14 respond to the payphone at Sycamore and 5th. Caller reports severe chest pain. No further details. Code 2. Payphone Victor frowned. Those still work, a few do in the old neighborhoods, I said, flipping on the siren and turning the rig around. The corner of Sycamore and 5th was in Dayton's historic district, lined with small bakeries and brick homes from the 50s. When we pulled up, the street was deserted, the temperature dipping below 5 degrees, a light snow dusting the sidewalk. I parked near the payphone booth, a relic from the 80s, its glass door fogged with grime. No one's here, Victor said, scanning the area. Maybe they ducked into the booth to stay warm, I suggested, stepping into the biting cold. We grabbed the med bag and approached the booth, but it was empty. Prank call, Victor asked. Not sure, I said. Dispatch rarely got it wrong. I checked the booth. The receiver hung neatly. No signs of vandalism. Let's look around, I said. We searched nearby alleys and buildings, calling out, but no one responded. Let's head back, Victor said, shivering. But then the payphone rang, its bell cutting through the quiet. Victor stared at me, surprised. Someone's calling a payphone. Maybe dispatch checking in, I said, though I knew that was unlikely. The ringing persisted, and with an uneasy feeling, I opened the booth door and stepped inside. The cramped space blocked the wind, leaving only the echo of the bell. I picked up the receiver. Hello, no answer, just a faint static hum. Then I heard it labored, gasping breaths, like someone fighting to stay alive. I knew the sound, heart attack or choking. Hello, this is Nathan Wells, ambulance service. Who's calling? The breathing quickened and a faint female voice came through. Help. Me. I'm here to help, I said, slipping into professional mode. Where are you, corner? Sycamore and 5th, the voice whispered. I looked out. Victor stood under the streetlight. No one else in sight. I'm at that corner, I said, but I don't see you. Where exactly are you? The payphone. The voice faded. A chill ran down my spine. You're in this booth? Yes. Can't breathe. What's your name? I asked, feeling like I was in a dream. Anna Mitchell. The name hit me. I remembered an old newspaper clipping from when I started a 22-year-old. Anna Mitchell died of a heart attack in 1995 while calling for help from this very payphone. Anna, I said, my voice shaking. What year is it? Silence. Then the weak voice. 1995. My heart stopped. Anna, listen to me. I know you're scared, but I'm here. You're not alone. I'm scared, she whispered. Tell my dad. I'll tell him. I promised. What do you want to say? Tell him. I love him. It didn't hurt. A soft sigh followed. Then silence, not a hang-up, but an emptiness. Like the line had gone dead. Anna, I called. No response. I set the receiver down, reeling from something beyond comprehension. Outside. Victor looked worried. Who were you talking to? I hesitated. I think a ghost. The next day, I looked up Anna Mitchell. She died February 15th, 1995, exactly 20 years before that night, from a heart attack while calling for help at Sycamore and 5th. With some digging, I found her father, Thomas Mitchell, 74, still living in Dayton. I visited his small apartment on the west side. He answered the door, silver hair and sharp eyes. I'm Nathan Wells, a paramedic. I need to talk about Anna. He invited me in. His place filled with photos of Anna, a young woman with a radiant smile. This'll sound strange, I said, recounting the call. Anna's voice and her message. Thomas listened, clutching a cold teacup. The night Anna died. I wasn't there, he said. I've always blamed myself. Wondered if she was scared. Alone. He looked at me, eyes welling. Yesterday was the 20th anniversary of her death. I visited her grave, apologized for not being there. Anna wanted you to know she loves you, and it didn't hurt. I said. Thomas cried. Quiet tears. Thank you, he whispered. Whether it was a dream or real, thank you for bringing her message. He handed me a photo of Anna at her high school graduation, saying, she'd want you to have this. I keep that photo in my wallet. A reminder that sometimes the most important calls don't come from the living. Now, whenever I pass one of the rare payphones still standing, I wonder how many voices linger, waiting for someone to answer. Story 12. The crash on Highway 75, Ohio. Car accidents were the toughest part of my 15 years as an ambulance driver in Dayton, Ohio. Crumpled metal, shattered glass glinting like cruel gems, and the eerie silence from a wrecked car never got easier. But one crash 11 years ago on Highway 75 changed how I see this job forever. It was a rainy autumn night, 9 years into my career. I was paired with Naomi, a skilled paramedic with an almost unnatural calm. We'd just handled a chest pain call and a premature birth that, thankfully, ended well, and were driving through Maplewood when the radio blared. Unit 14 major collision on Highway 75, mile marker 38 northbound. Multiple vehicles, casualties reported. All units respond. Code 1. Naomi and I exchanged a look. All units meant catastrophe. I hit the siren and sped through the downpour. Highway 75, a main route out of Dayton, was treacherous in rain. When we arrived, it looked like a war zone. 5 vehicles, 2 sedans, an SUV, a minivan, and a semi mangled beyond recognition. Debris littered the road, reflecting the flashing lights like broken mirrors. Firefighters were extracting trapped victims, medics tending to those already freed. I checked in with the incident commander, a weary-eyed female cop. You two, head to the green SUV, she ordered. They just pulled a woman out. Critical condition. We ran to the SUV, flipped on its side. Firefighters had just freed a woman and laid her on a stretcher. She was about 35, blonde, pale, with blood streaming from a head wound. Naomi assessed her. Weak pulse, low blood pressure, likely traumatic brain injury and internal damage. What's her name? I asked. A firefighter. Laura Hayes, he said. Unconscious when we found her. Anyone else? I asked, setting up an IV. He shook his head, voice low. A girl. Maybe 9 didn't make it. Probably her daughter. My chest tightened. We loaded Laura into the ambulance, Naomi in the back, and I floored it through the rain to Dayton Community Hospital. At the hospital, Laura was rushed to the ER. The doctors weren't hopeful. Brain trauma, ruptured spleen, multiple fractures. Rough night. Naomi sighed as we walked down the hall. I can't imagine Laura waking up and learning her kid. As we turned a corner, I nearly bumped into a girl standing outside the ER, about 9, wearing a blue nightgown. She stared at the doors. I stopped, apologized, but she didn't react. Blonde hair, big blue eyes, her face eerily familiar. "Who were you looking for?" I asked, kneeling down. She turned, her eyes carrying a sadness no child should know. "My mom," she said softly. "She's in there." "Who's your mom?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. "Laura Hayes," she said. "I'm Emily." My stomach dropped. Emily, the girl who died in the crash. "Wells, who are you talking to?" Naomi asked from behind. I glanced back, then at Emily. She was gone. "Nothing. Just tired," I said, heart pounding. Naomi looked concerned but didn't press. For the rest of the shift, I couldn't shake Emily's sad eyes or the feeling she was still there. 4 days later, I returned to the hospital. Laura was alive but comatose. I didn't know why I went, maybe to find Emily, or to make sure Laura wasn't alone. In her room, Laura lay still, monitors beeping steadily. No flowers, no cards, like she had no one left. Then I saw Emily, standing by her mom's bed, gazing at her with profound sorrow. "Emily," I said softly. She looked surprised. "You can see me." "Yeah," I said, closing the door. "I saw you in the hall the other night." Emily nodded, eyes on her mom. "I know I died. In the crash, I remember the rain, the metal crunch, and Mom calling my name." "You're here for her?" I asked. "I can't leave," she said. "Not with her like this. The doctors are doing everything they can," I said. "Your mom's strong." "She doesn't want to be," Emily said, her voice too old for her years. "In her dreams, she knows I'm gone and doesn't want to live." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Uneasy. She's trying to find me," Emily said. "On the other side, where I belong. She wants to follow." I looked at Laura, her vitals slipping, like she was letting go. "Is that what you think she wants? To give up?" Emily shook her head, eyes welling. "I don't know. I just miss her. Do you think she'd want to live? To remember you? To tell your story?" I asked. Emily paused, thinking. "Maybe, but she'll be alone." "She won't be," I said. "People will help her. And if you're still here in some way, she'll never lose you." Emily looked at me. Then her mom. "I don't know if I can stay forever. There's somewhere I have to go. You can stay long enough," I said, "to help her wake up, to let her know you're okay." A single, shimmering tear rolled down Emily's cheek. "How do I tell her she can't see me?" "Sometimes people feel the ones they love," I said. "You can reach her that way." Emily nodded, resolute. "I'll try." 2 weeks later, Laura made a miraculous turn. She opened her eyes on day 8, stunning the doctors. "Emily told me. Mom saw me, just for a second. When she woke, she said my name. Over the next 4 weeks, Laura recovered quickly. Emily faded, appearing less often. A month later, I visited Laura. She was sitting up in bed, a long scar across her forehead. "Nathan, my favorite rescuer." She smiled. "Thanks for checking in." "You're looking strong," I said. Laura met my eyes, voice low. "Have you seen her?" My pulse quickened. "Who, Emily?" she said, voice breaking. "I've felt her in this room. When I woke, I swear I saw her." I glanced at Emily, standing in the corner, nodding. "I believe you," I said. "I've seen Emily. She's been here, helping you heal." Laura cried, but it was a relieved kind of tears. "Is she okay?" "She's more than okay," I said. "She loves you and wants you to live." Laura wiped her eyes. I almost gave up, but I felt Emily pushing me to keep going. Maybe that's what she wanted, I said. Will I see her again? Laura asked. I looked at Emily, faint but glowing, waving goodbye before fading away. You will, I said. Not how you expect, but Emily's always with you. 2 years later, Laura started a charity in Emily's name, supporting families who lost loved ones in crashes. Emily never reappeared. But sometimes, visiting Laura, I feel a warmth, like a smile from afar, proof that love outlasts even death. Story 13, Mrs. Thompson and Rusty, Ohio. In my 15 years driving an ambulance in Dayton, Ohio, I've had calls that made me cry, laugh, and believe in something bigger. One call 10 years ago, involving Mrs. Thompson and her dog Rusty, remains one of the most heartwarming stories I carry. It was a crisp spring morning, and I was paired with Gabriella, a young paramedic with less than 18 months on the job, full of energy but quick to grumble. We just finished paperwork from a night shift at the fire station on Madison Avenue, ready to hand off, when the radio crackled. Unit 14, respond to Greenfield Senior Apartments, 5 Willow Lane. Female, 85 fall, suspected hip fracture. Code 3. Great, Gabriella sighed, folding her jacket. A hip fracture's the perfect way to cap a 12-hour shift. Think of it as a workout, I teased, starting the rig. Greenfields was a tidy senior complex in South Dayton, with working elevators and a small flower garden. The building manager met us in the lobby and led us to apartment 2C. It's Mrs. Thompson, he said. Lives alone with her dog. A neighbor heard her calling for help about an hour ago. An hour, Gabriella asked, concerned. I checked on her right away. But she wouldn't let me call you, he explained. She insisted on finding her dog first. Apartment 2C was cozy, with pale yellow walls, black and white photos of couples dancing from the 60s, and thriving potted plants. Mrs. Thompson, petite with neatly tied white hair, lay on the living room floor, a pillow under her head, her face tight with pain. About time you got here, she said, her voice strong despite the discomfort. Sorry for the trouble. No trouble at all. Mrs. Thompson, I reassured, kneeling beside her. Gabriella checked her vitals. Where's it hurt? She asked. Right hip, Mrs. Thompson said. Can't move it. But more important, Rusty. Have you found him? Rusty's your dog, I asked. The manager nodded. I looked everywhere. No sign of him. Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with worry. He never goes outside. I'm scared he's stuck somewhere. We'll keep looking, the manager promised. But you need to get to the hospital. I'm not going until I know Rusty's safe, she said, tears welling. He's old, needs meds, and he's scared of strangers. Gabriella and I exchanged a glance. A hip fracture needed quick attention, but her concern for the dog was fierce. Tell me about Rusty, I said. I'll look for him. Her face lit up. Thank you. He's a golden retriever, 17 years old, with a black spot behind his ear. He hides when strangers are around. Gabriella raised an eyebrow, but I signaled her to trust me. Get her ready, I said. I'll do a quick sweep. 5 minutes, Gabriella warned. I searched the apartment closets, under the sofa, behind the fridge, but no Rusty. After 4 minutes, I returned to the living room, where Gabriella had given Mrs. Thompson pain meds. I'm sorry, I said. I couldn't find him. Mrs. Thompson's face fell. What'll happen to him? The manager stepped in. Dogs are good at hiding. I'll find him and let you know. Mrs. Thompson reluctantly let us move her to the stretcher. Then a faint bark came from somewhere. Rusty, she cried. The sound traced to an antique wooden cabinet in the corner. I checked there, the manager said, but I noticed a loose panel at the base. I think he's here, I said, prying it open. Sure enough, a frail golden retriever with a black spot behind his ear was curled in a tight space. Rusty, I called softly. He crawled out, trembling but unharmed. I carried him to Mrs. Thompson. Rusty, she sobbed, tears of joy streaming. I set the dog on her chest, and he snuggled close, barking softly. "We can't take dogs to the hospital," Gabriella said gently. Mrs. Thompson nodded. "I know, but now I'm at peace." She turned to the manager. "You'll look after Rusty. He needs heart meds every night." "I used to be a vet tech," he assured her. "I've got this." On the way to the hospital, Mrs. Thompson shared stories about Rusty, the dog she and her husband, Albert, adopted from a shelter 17 years ago. "He slept by Albert's side every night when he was sick," she said. "After Albert passed 4 years ago, Rusty became my best friend. At the hospital," Mrs. Thompson squeezed my hand. "Thank you for finding Rusty. You don't know how much it means." 3 days later, I heard her hip surgery went well. I visited, bringing flowers. She was crying, clutching a piece of paper. "You okay?" I asked. "My hip's fine," she said. "But Rusty, he passed last night." "I'm so sorry," I said. "The manager said he went in his sleep," she continued. "No pain, but I wish I'd been there." She paused, looking at me. "Albert always said when he left, he'd send someone to watch over me. I think Rusty was his way of keeping that promise." She handed me the paper. The vet checked Rusty. He had heart disease, as expected. But the odd thing, Rusty didn't have a black spot behind his ear. Just pure golden fur. I frowned, but I saw the spot. "So did I." She nodded. "The vet said there was none." A thought struck her. "Maybe Rusty was already gone when I fell," she said. "Maybe the dog you found wasn't really Rusty, at least not his physical self." She showed me an old photo, Albert holding a golden retriever with a black spot behind its ear, identical to the dog I'd found. "I think Albert sent Rusty, or some version of him, so I wouldn't be alone," she said, smiling through tears, "to get me to the hospital instead of trying to manage with a broken hip." I didn't know how to explain it. "Not everything needs explaining," she said, patting my hand. "Sometimes you just believe." Leaving the hospital, I thought about Rusty the dog with and without a black spot, and promises that outlast death. After 15 years, I've learned the greatest miracles aren't always scientific. Sometimes they're love, and a dog can be proof we're never truly alone.